Every year, without fail, something subtle happens when you step into December. You can feel it before you even notice it consciously. The air carries a different frequency, conversations deepen without effort, and your emotional field becomes more porous, more receptive, more alive. Even if you don't label it as law of attraction, you sense that the fabric of your reality becomes thinner, like the boundary between your intention and its manifestation is dissolving. This is December energy, and it's not poetic or symbolic. It's real, measurable in your body, and recognizable in your subconscious mind as a shift in internal and collective coherence. December acts like an energetic amplifier because you're moving through a month that holds enormous emotional density. For 11 months, you've been building stories, desires, disappointments, lessons, hopes, an entire identity shift in slow motion. But when December arrives, all these layers rise to the surface. You're reviewing your timeline, consciously or not. You're assessing who you became and who you didn't dare to become. This heightened reflection expands your energy because awareness is a catalyst. And in terms of signal versus noise, December naturally reduces internal static. The year is closing, the pressure to push decreases, and your mind stops obsessively future projecting. Less noise means your signal, the real emotion behind your intention, becomes clearer, stronger, and easier for reality to respond to. There's also a collective component. December is one of the few times when millions of people around the world synchronize emotionally. It doesn't matter what someone believes or where they live. Almost everyone enters a state of nostalgia, gratitude, softness, or longing. This creates a global emotional field shift, a kind of giant resonance chamber. When the collective slows down, your nervous system slows down with it. When the collective becomes more reflective and emotionally open, your own subconscious mind becomes easier to access. This is why your visualizations feel more vivid, why your desires feel closer, why your sense of alignment becomes intuitive instead of forced. You're not imagining it. You're swimming inside a softer reality, one where the boundary between thought and outcome is thinner. December also has a strange effect on the idea of reality shift. The month works like a liminal space, no longer fully the year that passed, not yet the year that comes. You're standing in the hallway between two identities. This transitional space weakens your old identity's grip and makes your new identity easier to embody. That's why decisions feel more symbolic, why small shifts feel like massive breakthroughs. The Christmas frequency is essentially the emotional equivalent of a reset button. It invites you to re-choose your timeline, to rewrite your inner architecture, and to send a clearer vibrational signal into the field. You might not realize it, but this is the moment of the year when the universe listens the closest, not because something outside changes, but because you become more coherent inside. December turns your heart into a tuning fork and your nervous system into a transmitter. This is why manifestations accelerate. The channel between intention and reality becomes clean, uncluttered, receptive. You step into December energy, and December energy steps into you. One of the biggest misconceptions in manifestation is that things happen faster in December because the universe suddenly becomes more generous. But the truth is much simpler and far more powerful. Your resistance finally drops. And when resistance drops, signal versus noise shifts dramatically. Your intention becomes cleaner, your energy becomes steadier, and your field becomes easier for reality to respond to. December doesn't create miracles, you become more available to them. For most of the year, your mind is in survival mode. You're moving fast, multitasking, reacting, planning, worrying, projecting. This constant motion generates internal turbulence, micro-stress, micro-fear, micro-doubt. It creates emotional noise that competes with your vibrational signal. You want abundance, but you're stressed about bills. You want love, but you're replaying disappointments. You want expansion, but you're stuck in overthinking loops. This is resistance, the subconscious friction that blocks coherence between what you want and who you are being. Then December arrives, and something unexpected happens. You slow down. not by choice, but by emotional momentum. The collective energy softens, work rhythms ease, people get sentimental, deadlines loosen, and your nervous system responds to all of it. You enter a more coherent emotional state, less urgency, less pressure, less internal contraction. And when your body relaxes, your subconscious mind becomes more permeable. You stop fighting your reality and start allowing it. This allowance is what most people call magic, but it's really the mechanics of coherence taking over. Lower resistance means your body is no longer contradicting your desire. You're not pushing against your life. You're not looping through self-criticism. You're not living in fight or flight. You're finally aligned with yourself. And alignment is a physiological state before it is a spiritual one. When your breath slows, when your shoulders drop, when your mind stops chasing imagined futures, your energy stabilizes. And stabilized energy is a magnet for manifestation. It pulls experiences towards you because your internal signal is no longer being drowned out by internal chaos. December also reduces resistance because your identity temporarily becomes more flexible. You're evaluating your year, reassessing your choices, revisiting your beliefs. In this reflective state, you're not clinging so tightly to your old self. The ego loosens its grip. And when identity softens, your reality shift accelerates. Why? Because identity is the anchor of your timeline. Change the anchor, and the timeline moves with it. This is why you can feel breakthroughs, insights, and emotional openings that you couldn't access months earlier. You're finally not arguing with the version of you that wants to evolve. And here's the deeper truth. The universe isn't responding faster in December. You are interfering less. You're not operating from fear. You're not doubting the process. You're not trying to micromanage outcomes. You're living from a natural state of alignment, the very state the law of attraction depends on. When resistance drops, manifestation speed increases, not gradually, but exponentially. It's a quantum effect. One small shift in coherence creates a massive shift in outcome. This is the hidden mechanism of December energy. Less friction, more flow. Less internal noise and more vibrational clarity. Less fear and more emotional openness. And because of that, the universe doesn't need to push through your walls. There are no walls. Just a field that is finally receptive, finally still, finally aligned with the reality you've been asking for all year. Gratitude is one of the most misunderstood forces in manifestation. Most people treat it like a moral practice, something you should feel to be a good person. But in the quantum shift perspective, gratitude is a coherence amplifier. It strengthens your energy, clears your signal, softens your resistance, and opens your subconscious mind to new instructions. And in December, gratitude becomes almost effortless. It rises naturally, like an emotional memory your body already knows how to access. This is why the Christmas frequency is so powerful. Gratitude becomes the emotional language of the month, and that emotional language transforms your vibrational field. When you enter a state of genuine gratitude, not forced gratitude, not rehearsed gratitude, but the real kind, your nervous system shifts immediately. Your breath deepens, your heart rhythm stabilizes, your body drops out of survival mode. Gratitude is biologically incompatible with fear, worry, or lack. It dissolves the emotional patterns that block manifestation and replaces them with coherence. This is why every spiritual tradition, every mystic text, every modern neuroscience study points to the same truth. Gratitude changes your frequency faster than any affirmation. Affirmations push upward. Gratitude expands outward. And December is uniquely engineered to activate this expansion. You're surrounded by symbols of generosity, connection, meaning, nostalgia, hope, all emotional cues that prime your inner world. You reflect on the people who stayed by your side, the lessons you survived, the victories you barely acknowledged. These reflections activate your inner child, the part of you that once learned how to feel awe, wonder, and unconditional appreciation. When your inner child awakens, your emotional field becomes softer and more receptive. That softness is coherence, and coherence is what allows reality to respond. Gratitude also works as a vibrational glue. It binds your intention with the emotional state that makes that intention believable to your subconscious mind. Without emotion, a desire is just a thought. With gratitude, it becomes a signal. And in the equation of signal versus noise, gratitude dramatically increases the clarity of what you're sending out. It removes doubts from the frequency. It removes fear from the signal. It tells your subconscious, this reality is already familiar to me. And the moment something becomes familiar, your mind stops resisting it. This is why so many people experience unexpected blessings in December. People you haven't spoken to reach out, opportunities resurface, money flows, resolutions arrive, realizations land. It's not luck, it's coherence. You're finally a match for what you've been asking for. Your field is no longer broadcasting lack, it's broadcasting appreciation. And appreciation attracts faster than desire because it carries no resistance. It's a state of receiving rather than wanting. Here's the quantum truth. Gratitude is not about saying thank you. It's about becoming a person whose emotional baseline is open, receptive, and aligned. When you practice gratitude in December, you're not just acknowledging what you have, you're preparing your identity to step into a new timeline. You're creating emotional conditions where your manifestations don't need to struggle to reach you. They simply flow because you're finally coherent enough to let them in. There's a reason December feels different, even if your adult life is chaotic, busy, or far from perfect. The month carries an emotional imprint, a signature frequency that your subconscious mind recognizes instantly. December is one of the only times of the year when your inner child wakes up without resistance. You don't have to force nostalgia, imagination, warmth, or wonder. Your body remembers. Your emotional field remembers. And this memory is one of the strongest accelerators for manifestation because your inner child operates on pure frequency, not logic. When you were young, December wasn't about stress, deadlines, or expectations. It was magic, light, anticipation, a sense that something extraordinary was coming. You lived in a constant state of emotional openness, the very state the law of attraction depends on. Your inner child didn't question whether reality could shift. It simply believed it could. And this belief wasn't naive, it was coherent. Children generate incredibly clean vibrational signals. They don't complicate their desires with doubt. They don't sabotage their intentions with overthinking. They send out pure energy, pure emotion, pure alignment. As an adult, you lost that purity, not because you're broken, but because the world taught you to close, to analyze everything, to prepare for disappointment, to stop hoping so loudly. This creates resistance, emotional armor, and self-protection mechanisms that distort your frequency and disrupt signal versus noise. But in December, that armor cracks open. You become softer, more receptive, more emotionally accessible to yourself. And this softening reactivates the exact emotional states that make manifestation faster and more fluid. The spark of excitement you feel when you see lights on a street, that's your inner child reclaiming the field. The sudden wave of nostalgia when a familiar smell hits you, that's your subconscious opening a door you haven't walked through in years. The desire to reconnect, to slow down, to dream bigger, to imagine more, that's not random. It's your emotional memory reactivating. And emotional memory is one of the most potent tools in reality shift because it bypasses your conscious defenses and goes straight to the source of creation, your subconscious identity. This is the secret most people miss. Your inner child is the master manifester within you. It's the part of your identity that still believes timelines can shift instantly. It's the part of you that knows reality is malleable. It's the part that understood long before adulthood that your emotional state is the blueprint for your experiences. When your inner child reawakens this part of you, your manifestations accelerate because your field stops resisting the impossible. It becomes familiar with magic again.
Activating emotional memory also restores coherence in your system. When your inner child frequency rises, your heart and mind synchronize. Your emotional and mental signals stop contradicting each other. You become internally aligned, not by force, but by remembrance. And alignment born from remembrance is far more powerful than alignment born from discipline. This is why your desires feel closer in December, why your intuition becomes sharper, why your visualizations feel more vivid and more real. Your subconscious mind is finally awake, paying attention, ready to encode new instructions. The past is not pulling you backward, it's providing the emotional fuel to leap forward. The magic you felt as a child wasn't childish, it was coherence, it was clean energy, it was alignment. And December brings that frequency back so your adult self can finally manifest from the most powerful part of your identity. December carries a silence that isn't empty, it's charged. It's the kind of stillness that feels like the world is holding its breath, giving you one last moment to listen inward before the timeline resets. This stillness is not psychological, it's energetic. When the noise of the year fades away, you step into what can only be described as a December portal, a window where your inner and outer worlds synchronize more easily. In this space, your energy stabilizes, your emotional field opens, and your subconscious mind becomes more responsive to new instructions. It's the ideal environment for manifestation because you're finally quiet enough to hear your own frequency.
This stillness is not passive, it's deeply creative. When you enter the December portal, you're stepping into a field where imagination becomes clearer and timelines become flexible. Reflection becomes easier because you're no longer resisting what you feel. You're not rushing past your emotions, you're sitting with them. And reflection isn't about overthinking, it's about integration. You're gathering the emotional data of the year, pulling together the lessons, the patterns, the unresolved desires, the quiet wins, the painful growth. Integration creates emotional order, and emotional order is coherence. In this state, your identity shift becomes natural instead of effortful. When you're quiet, you can see the version of yourself you've been trying to grow into. You can feel where your energy was leaking, where your patterns were outdated, where your desires were misaligned. Silence reveals truth, and truth reveals the next version of you. This is why realizations hit harder in December, why insights arrive suddenly, why emotional clarity becomes unavoidable. The portal magnifies everything, not to overwhelm you, but to align you. The most powerful part of this portal is how it affects your reality shift. When the external world slows down, your inner world speeds up. You have more access to intuition, symbolic thinking, and the subtle emotional cues reality is always sending you. You're able to sense the difference between the timelines you're attached to and the timelines you're actually aligned with. And because your resistance is lower, choosing a new timeline feels easier, safer, more grounded. You're not forcing a shift, you're allowing it. This December stillness also creates space for your manifestations to land. When you stop filling your mind with noise, your field becomes a receiver. The universe doesn't deliver blessings into chaos, it delivers them into coherence. And coherence requires spaciousness, silence, emotional clarity. You don't manifest by doing more, you manifest by clearing the space where the new reality can arrive. This is the paradox. December feels quiet, but energetically, it's the loudest month of the year. Reality is speaking to you in symbols, memories, insights, synchronicities. If you're willing to sit in that stillness, even for a few minutes a day, you will feel your energy rearrange itself. You will feel your frequency soften and sharpen simultaneously. You will feel the December portal open inside you, ready to collapse the old identity and expand the new one. This is not just reflection, it's alignment. And alignment is the geometry of manifestation. You've probably felt it before without understanding why. In December, things just happen faster. Signs appear more often, people respond quicker, opportunities align unexpectedly. The things you've been trying to manifest all year begin to move with a strange, almost supernatural ease. But nothing magical is happening out there. The shift is happening in you, and it's happening in the collective emotional field that surrounds you. December rearranges the internal conditions that the universe requires in order to respond. It's not generosity, it's geometry. It's not luck, it's coherence. To understand why manifestation accelerates in December, you need to understand one thing. The universe doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your baseline frequency. And December alters that baseline in three major ways: lower internal resistance, higher emotional intensity, greater collective coherence. When these factors combine, your signal versus noise ratio shifts dramatically. The signal, your hidden emotional truth, becomes louder and cleaner. The noise, your doubts, fears, overthinking, and identity conflicts, becomes quieter. This is the perfect environment for the law of attraction to operate in its purest form, not as wishful thinking, but as physics, the alignment of internal and external frequency. Think about how you move through the year. Most months, you're pushing through tasks, obligations, fears, expectations. Your subconscious mind is overloaded, your energy is fragmented, your desires are competing with stress. And stress creates contraction, a tightness in your field that blocks manifestation. But December softens this contraction. You begin to surrender without realizing it. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop gripping your timelines so tightly. And the moment you loosen that grip, the universe can finally move. The emotional intensity of December also plays a major role. You're feeling more: nostalgia, hope, longing, reflection, gratitude. These emotions are powerful because they open your field. They expand your heart, soften your identity, and raise your vibrational coherence. And coherence is what makes your manifestations land smoothly, because your emotional state matches the frequency of receiving. The universe doesn't respond faster because it loves December. It responds faster because you become receivable. Another layer is collective energy. Millions of people around the world enter a heightened emotional state at the same time. Whether they're celebrating, reflecting, or simply slowing down, this shared emotional current creates a global resonance field. When the collective softens, your own emotional walls crumble more easily. You become a mirror and a participant in the emotional rhythm around you. This collective coherence acts like a supportive wave that carries your intentions forward. It's easier to believe in possibilities when everyone else is feeling more hopeful. Belief increases your frequency. Frequency shapes your reality. This is the mechanics behind the Christmas frequency. But the deepest reason the universe responds faster is identity. December weakens the boundaries of your current self. You're naturally reviewing your choices, evaluating your patterns, imagining your next version. Your identity becomes fluid, less rigid. And when identity becomes flexible, your reality shift accelerates. Why? Because manifestation is not about forcing a new reality. It's about embodying a new identity. December creates the emotional conditions for this embodiment: openness, surrender, reflection, excitement, gratitude. You become more aligned with your future self than your past one, and the universe responds to whichever identity you are currently broadcasting. When these elements converge, lowered resistance, elevated emotional frequency, collective coherence, and fluid identity, the gap between intention and manifestation narrows. Your desires no longer feel distant. Your intuition becomes sharper. Synchronicities increase. Things click. Opportunities unfold. It feels like reality is bending in your direction, not because December is magical, but because December is coherent, and coherence is the language the universe listens to. Christmas week is not just another stretch of days.
It's a unique emotional corridor where your field becomes more open, your frequency becomes more stable, and your subconscious becomes unusually impressionable. In these days, your desires sit closer to the surface, your intuition becomes louder, and your heart begins to lead with a clarity that's harder to access during the rest of the year. This is why creating a simple alignment ritual during these days is so powerful. It's not about routines or discipline. It's about guiding your energy into coherence while the Christmas frequency is already working in your favor. You begin by allowing yourself to slow down, even only for a brief moment. December carries a natural stillness, and when you step into that stillness consciously, your internal noise begins to dissolve. Your breath deepens, your shoulders soften, your thoughts loosen their grip. This moment of quiet becomes the doorway through which your timeline can shift. The subconscious responds to silence in ways it never responds to force. When you give yourself this pause, even for a few minutes, your energy reorganizes and your field becomes receptive again.
As Christmas approaches, notice how gratitude begins to rise in you almost effortlessly. You don't have to force it. The memories, the reflections, the moments that shaped you throughout the year naturally come forward. Let them surface. Gratitude is not something you recite, it's something you feel. And when you allow that warmth to expand through your chest, your entire emotional field enters a state of coherence. This coherence becomes your signal, the pure frequency that the universe responds to. In Christmas week, gratitude becomes a bridge between the identity you've lived and the identity you're ready to embody. Once your heart is open, your subconscious becomes willing to listen. This is when you gently begin to define who you are becoming, not through pressure, not through goals, not through affirmations shouted into the void, but through a quiet recognition. This is the version of me I am stepping into. When you speak to yourself from this place, calm, grounded, emotionally expanded, your subconscious accepts the message as truth. Christmas week turns identity into clay. With a few intentional thoughts, you begin shaping the next version of yourself. And as the days unfold, you start to sense a different kind of momentum. Not the fast, anxious momentum of productivity, but the soft, stable momentum of alignment. You begin taking small, intuitive steps that match the identity you are choosing. You find yourself cleaning a corner of your room, answering a message you had postponed, organizing a plan, making a decision you've been avoiding. These micro movements are not random. They are physical expressions of your evolving frequency. Each tiny action reinforces the new timeline you're stepping into. As the week reaches its end, you feel a subtle shift, a moment where the year feels like it's folding into itself. This moment is crucial. It's the emotional threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. If you pause here, even for a breath, and acknowledge the identity that has been rising inside you all week, you solidify the shift. Not through effort, but through recognition. You feel yourself aligning, not with outcomes, but with the version of you who naturally attracts those outcomes. Christmas week is powerful because it blends stillness, gratitude, identity, and coherence into a single emotional sequence. It's not a ritual you do, it's a frequency you enter. When you move through these days with awareness, your field becomes clear. Your desires become magnetic, and your reality begins to reorganize itself around your new emotional geometry. This is the quiet quantum work. This is the week when alignment becomes your native state, and manifestation becomes a natural extension of who you are. December has a way of placing you face to face with yourself. Not the version you show the world, but the version that lives beneath your habits, beneath your fears, beneath every story you've carried throughout the year. As the month closes, your identity becomes softer, more malleable, more ready to evolve. This is the hidden gift of December energy. It loosens the grip of who you've been, making space for who you're becoming. In these final days, your subconscious mind is paying attention to every emotion you allow yourself to feel.
The reflections, the gratitude, the stillness, all of it creates the perfect emotional climate for an identity shift. And identity is the heartbeat of manifestation. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you are. December lets you rewrite that belief with more clarity and far less resistance. This is why the last moments in the year feel symbolic. You're not just closing a calendar cycle, you're closing a timeline. And the new one you step into responds directly to the frequency you hold right now. When you choose to release old versions of yourself, the ones shaped by fear, doubt, scarcity, or self-protection, you create a clean field for the universe to fill. When you choose coherence over chaos, alignment over pressure, and truth over habit, your reality shifts with you. So as the year ends, give yourself permission to step into the identity that has been calling you all month. Feel it, embody it, let it become the new emotional baseline your timeline can anchor into. December isn't asking you to hustle or prove anything. It's asking you to align, to soften, to choose with intention. Because when you shift identity in this window, the universe responds quickly, cleanly, and unmistakably. This is the closing moment of your year, the moment where the timeline resets, the signal strengthens, and your next reality begins.